Welcome to the $50 CPU comparison. In this video, we will be trying to assess which CPU is best for around $50 or £40. Just to note that while I'm not performing these tests myself, I'll be using cpu.userbenchmark.com, which is a very reliable source, and I do personally use it for my part buying choices. Before we get into this video, if we can hit 5 likes, I'll be doing a GPU follow-up to this video as soon as possible. So let's get into this video now, shall we? So first up, we have the classic Q6600 that can be found for around £15 in the UK and $20 over in the US. Even though it is a very old chip, being released in Q1 of 2007, it is still a very strong CPU today, packing a quad-core 2.4 GHz chip with a TDP of 105 watts. It uses the LGA 775 motherboard, which is very cheap as well, which means you can pick up the CPU and the motherboard for around £35 or $40 in total. As you can see here, the CPU user benchmark scores are quite low, but that is to be expected for the price tag, and with a modest card like the 650 Ti or the 750 Ti, it should perform quite decently. Next up, we have the Intel i5-2400, and this CPU can be picked up for around £45 or $50. This is a quad-core chip clocked at 3.1 GHz and can turbo up to 3.4. It launched in Q1 2011, so it is fairly new for this price. And one of the big reasons for this is the fact that you cannot overclock it since it has been locked by Intel. And lots of people had no other option but to get rid of this processor if they wanted better performance. This CPU supports the LGA 1155 socket, and most motherboards with this socket can cost between $50 and $130 for the higher end motherboards. An expensive motherboard for the CPU should not be necessary though, since it will bottleneck most high-end SLI setups and it is not overclockable. If we compare the i5 to the Q6600, you can see that there is a huge difference in the overall scores, and there is a 121% improvement over the Q6600, meaning that this CPU will probably not bottleneck any cards in this price category. Now we have the big brother of the 2400, the 2500K, which is probably the default choice for quite a few people that would go for a used build. This chip has the potential to be a great overclocker, and there are reports that people have reached up to 5 GHz with the CPU, which is absolutely incredible for the low price tag of around $60 or £50. The chip is similar to the i5-2400, except that it has a 200 MHz upgrade to 3.3 GHz stock and 3.7 boost, and it uses the same LGA 1155 socket, which is fairly cheap for the tier of CPUs you can fit inside. The scores for this beat the i5-2400 easily, and that is most likely due to the increased stock speeds and the overclocking potential. And lastly, we have the AMD FX 6300. The only real reason I'm recommending this chip is for people that want to game and do a bit of editing on the side, and I would not recommend this for people who only want to play games or only do work on the CPU. The main reason for this is the very weak single core performance. However, with the release of Zen, I believe that this CPU will drop in price and it is already around $60 or £50 used. Motherboards for this are around £60 to £120, so you are looking at around £120 for the cheapest possible system. The FX 6300 is beaten by both the 2500K and the 2400, so because of that, I would only recommend this after Zen has arrived, and chances are you'll be able to find this processor very cheap along with the AM3 socket motherboards. If you like this video, please hit the like button and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos.